All right, let's dive into a really big question for anyone who's ever thought about going into business with someone else. Just how much power does one partner actually have? We're going to explore how a single decision made by one person can legally tie up everyone else involved, and the consequences can be huge. Let's get right into it. So, picture this. You start a company, Clara and Dan's Design Studio, with your partner, Dan. It's going great. Then one day, you find out Dan, without telling you, signed a massive contract for a ton of expensive supplies you absolutely do not need. The bill shows up and the company can't pay it. So, are they going to come after your personal savings because of his mistake? That is the exact question we're going to unpack today. So, here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at a partnership's public identity. Then, we'll get into the big one. Can one partner really have total power? After that, we'll cover what happens when things go wrong, look at some really interesting edge cases, and then wrap it all up with the ultimate takeaway. All right, first up, a partnership's public identity. Before we can even talk about what a partner can do, we have to understand how the law even sees the partnership itself. And it all starts with the name. It all begins with the firm name. For our duo, that's Clara and Dan's Design Studio. Seems pretty straightforward, right? But that name carries a whole lot of legal weight. And here is where things get really interesting, fast. Let's say Clara and Dan decide to call their business Clara, Dan, and Emily's Designs. Maybe Emily is a famous designer, and they want to use her great reputation. Well, even if Emily isn't an actual partner, she could be held responsible for the business's debts just because her name is on the sign. That is a critical lesson. Be so careful about letting a business use your name. Which leads us right to the heart of the matter. Does one partner have total power? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of what a single partner is and isn't allowed to do. So the key idea here is that every partner is legally considered an agent of the business. What does that mean? It means when Dan orders regular design supplies, he's acting for the partnership. His decision binds the entire company, and that includes Clara, because it's just part of the normal day-to-day business. But the law puts up some very clear guardrails. A single partner can't just go rogue and make giant business-ending decisions on their own. There are certain things, like selling off the company's reputation or doing something that makes it impossible to even stay in business, that need every single partner to agree. These are the showstoppers, the big moves everyone has to sign off on. And when it comes to real estate, wow, it gets even more specific. If Dan tried to sell their studio, what he's allowed to do depends completely on whose name is on the title deed. If the property is in the partnership's name, he can sell it, but Clara might be able to get it back. If it's only in his name, he can't really sell the physical property, just the partnership's financial interest in it. And if it's in everyone's name, no way. He can't act alone. Period. Okay, so we've seen what a partner can and can't do, but now let's get back to our scenario. What happens when Dan actually makes that huge, costly mistake and racks up a massive debt? Right, so for contract debts, like that terrible supply order, every partner, and yes, that means Clara, is personally on the hook. But, and this is a really important but, there's an order to things. Creditors have to go after the partnership's money and assets first. Only if and when that runs out can they start coming after the partner's personal bank accounts. Not all liability is the same. For a standard contract debt, it's pro rata, which basically means Clara and Dan would split it based on their agreement. But for a wrongful act, let's say Dan misused a client's money, the liability becomes solidary. That means the client could sue Clara for the entire amount, and it would be up to her to try and get Dan's share back from him. That is a massive difference. All right, let's step into the gray areas, the situations that aren't so black and white, but are absolutely fascinating. So let's talk about something called partnership by estoppel. This is all about appearances. Imagine Dan brings his friend Mike to a meeting with a lender and says, "This is my partner, Mike." And Mike just smiles and nods along. Well, if that lender gives them a loan because they thought Mike was a partner, Mike can actually be held liable for that debt, even though he has nothing to do with the business officially. And the law is super clear about this. It all comes down to acting on the faith of such representation. It's a powerful reminder that in partnership law, what people believe to be true can have very real and very expensive consequences. Okay, what about new blood? Let's say a new partner, Maria, joins the studio. Is she on the hook for Dan's bad contract from before she even got there? Well, the answer is yes, but with a huge asterisk. She is liable for old debts, but only up to her investment in the partnership. her personal house, her car, her savings, they're safe from the partnership's past mistakes. So we've waded through all these articles and scenarios. Let's boil it all down. What's the big takeaway from all this? What does it actually mean for you? When you piece it all together, a few huge ideas really stand out. First, the law sees you as a single unit, one for all. An ordinary business decision by one partner is a decision by all partners. Second, because of that, risk is baked into the system. Your personal finances are tied to the business. Third, this whole legal structure is built on one thing: trust. The law has to assume you trust your partners to do the right thing. And finally, as we saw, words and appearances really, really matter. How you present your partnership to the world can create very real debts. The bottom line is, partnership law isn't just rules. It's a system that legally locks in your shared fate. Look, a partnership can be an incredible way to grow business, to combine skills and capital. It offers so much power and flexibility. But after seeing just how deeply you're bound by someone else's actions, the real question is that a risk you're willing to take?